Hello, my beautiful, beautiful, beautiful people. As you can see by the title, we are diving into the life of Princess Diana. Now, before I go any further, I want to give a warning, a disclaimer, trigger warning, whatever you want to call it. But if depression, eating disorder, self-harm, infidelity, mental health, if any of that is actually triggering for you, this video might not be for you. It took me a long time to do this video because number one, I wanted to do this the right way. I wanted to have the utmost respect for Princess Diana. I wanted to tell her story and her story only. Because at one point, I redid this video a billion times, and I'm just gonna say it now. I don't like the royal family. Listen, they do nothing for me. I know they don't care for me. But going down this rabbit hole of Princess Diana, I just became more and more and more sure of myself that I do not like the royal family. Somebody said it in my comments the best. The royal family has secrets on top of secrets on top of their secrets. It's ridiculous, and I wasn't sure if the world was ready to hear her story. So, besides going through all these articles and different books, I came across a book called Diana, Her True Story in Her Own Words by Andrew Morton. She wanted to get her story out and reached out to this publisher or journalist, and they had to be real slick and creative, I should say, to get these interviews. So there's an actual book and an audio book, and listening to her talk in her own words exactly what happened. Because see, here's the thing, when I was doing research, I noticed any British article or always seemed to put her in a bad light, like, I don't know, always just trashing her. And so when I came across this book, I said to myself, you know what, scratch everything, forget everything I read. I am going to tell her story in her words. So this first part of the video will be about briefly about her childhood, and then we're gonna jump right into Prince Charles, Camilla, how Princess Diana met, like the whole scandal during their marriage and everything. That is what part one is about, her own struggle in the royal family and what she went through. If you guys want a part two will be strictly about her death, the conspiracy theories, what I actually think about all the lies the royal family has been caught in. There's just so much about her death that listen, that rabbit hole, part two rabbit hole, is ridiculous. But I don't know if you guys want to hear that, my opinion. And when I tell y'all, I found out a whole lot of shit emojis for part 2 to Princess Diana, 2 crown emojis for part 2, and let me know what you would like me to include in part 2, or was part 1 enough? Is this exactly what you wanted to hear? Was this just enough? So again, this video is briefly about her childhood, how Camilla and Prince Charles met, how Prince Charles and Princess Diana's sister was dating first, the engagement, infidelities, the treatment from the family, the paparazzi, tabloids, charity, all of that. So, without further ado, let's get to I feel as if real quickly I need to explain why I'm just not a fan of the royal family real quickly. Number one, I have been watching The Crown. I actually started watching The Crown as of last year. Haven't finished it, but watched it. And going down or diving into Princess Diana's life and diving down the rabbit hole of the royal family, I'm just not with it. I'm not with the racism. I'm not with the inappropriate comments, the inappropriate outbursts. I'm just not a fan of watching Prince Philip's at Nazi parties, parades, rallies. It's just not my thing. So I don't know. And one thing about the royal family I noticed, it's like if you don't have like more money than them, everyone is like peasants to them. Like everyone's beneath them, and I don't like that. But anyway, let's actually get to the life of Diana, Princess of Wales. The wedding of Lady Diana and the Prince of Wales was the love story of the decade. But the seemingly perfect fairy tale was destined not to have a storybook ending. The marriage broke down in acrimony and with revelations of infidelity on both sides. The couple's separation and divorce seriously damaged the monarchy itself. Well, if I may, I don't think it was the couple's separation and divorce, because here's the thing, the royal family has been a hot mess for a minute. But I might admit though that Princess Diana's book, like telling all the secrets, now that might have fucked up the monarchy, that maybe that, but not the actual separation. They better stop that nonsense. For Diana, it was a painful process which led to depression, for which she claimed she got no support from the royal family. Just as it seemed that Diana, Princess of Wales, had found new love, she died in a car crash on Sunday, August 31st, 1997. The princess's new love and the driver of the car died in the accident as well. A bodyguard was seriously injured. So before I get into her childhood real quickly, I just want to mention why the world actually loved Princess Diana. See, here's the thing. When she married Prince Charles, nobody, not even the Queen, understood how much of an impact Princess Diana would have, right? So they actually did not have a role along with the letter she wrote to her butler in regards to who she thinks is trying to kill her. She also received death threats in regards to the landmines. So, conspiracy theories part 2. Here we come. Maybe. But yeah, she was really, really loved. She also received the humanitarian award that she received in New York City. And I remember her saying, coming to New York City, it was such a different feeling than being back in London. Everyone was so kind. Everyone was so loving. Because she said back at home, no matter what, everyone was on Prince Charles's side. She couldn't breathe. She couldn't do anything. She was so depressed. But coming to New York, she felt like she had a purpose. But alright, so Princess Diana's childhood. Now, in her own voice, her own words, she said she had a very unhappy childhood. Watched father smack her own mom. She was actually hiding behind a door and actually witnessed them. And that's when she knew that the marriage was completely over. So she had 2 older sisters, one named Jane and one named Sarah. Do not forget that name, Sarah, but 2 older sisters. Then her parents had another baby, which was a boy that died 10 days later. See, here's the thing. Back then, if you're any type of royalty, everybody wants an heir to the throne or heir to continue their legacy. In Princess Diana's case, her parents they had 2 girls, and the third one they were hoping and wishing it was a boy, which it was, but unfortunately the baby passed away 10 days later. So the next pregnancy came, and of course everyone was telling, Princess Diana's mom, it's gonna be a boy, it's gonna be a boy. Surprise, out came Princess Diana. And I think that actually made her mother really, really depressed, because she knew she basically had to keep going, I guess, to get the boy. But I think Princess Diana was a little bit of a disappointment. Like, oh man, I really gotta try again. But she always said she felt like the black sheep of the family, the odd one out. And she always felt that way because she felt as if she should have been a boy. But anyway, they did finally get their boy, which was her youngest brother, Charles. So again, it's Jane, Sarah, her oldest 2, and then she has a younger brother named Charles. And I think also too, having a boy was putting a strain on the family, especially if the mom has to keep getting pregnant until, they get a boy. There's also been speculation that the mom just upped and left the children for another man. She also said it was full of nannies. So let's just read what this says. It says Diana Frances Spencer was born on July 1st, 1961. She had 2 older sisters. She had a younger brother named Charles. The root of Diana's insecurity lay in her upbringing, despite its privileges. Her family was living on the Queen's estate, where her father had rented Park House. He had been a royal agree for both King George VI and the young Queen Elizabeth II. So basically, they were, I don't want to call them servants, but they worked for the king and queen, but like higher up positions in a way. But Diana was only 6 when her parents split up. She would always remember the crunch of her mother's departing footsteps on the gravel drive. The children became pawns in a bitter custody dispute. So like I said, going through strain on it. They also said that maybe Diana's mother might have had a mental disorder, bipolar. Not really 100% sure. By the way, her father, after the grandfather passed away, the father became the 8th Earl. He was a wealthy landowner who owned farms, 15,000 acres of land farms, and he also sold sheep fur. So when I say her father was far from broke, hunty, he was far from broke. But once he became the 8th Earl Spencer, that's when she became a Lady Diana. But again, through the bitter custody battle, the father ended up having custody of both children. Of all the children. Lady Diana said it was still sad times because with the father, it was nothing but nannies and nannies and nannies, and the nannies were cruel. They were mean. They would just do mean things. It wasn't pleasant. And then when she was with her mom, she cried all the time, all the time, all the time. She also remembered that her father used to throw a lot of birthday parties or parties, which is why she hates them now. It was like the father's way, I guess, was just maybe trying to buy her love or buy gifts. But at the end of the day, one thing I took out of that whole childhood is, with all the money and privileges and everything else, she never had a hug, a kiss, the I love you, that I will, everything will be okay. And it's funny because Prince Charles never had that either when it came to his bitch-ass father, Prince Philip's Duke of, I'm not even gonna call him Duke of because I remember from the ground how he got that name. We're just gonna leave it at Prince Philip's, okay. But also to Prince Philip's and Queen Elizabeth, it was one of those, yeah, let's smile for the cameras and go up with the nannies or go off to boarding school or whatever. But then they also weren't loving parents. So I can see how Prince Charles became cold. And then with Lady Diana, she earned for that, and she couldn't even get that love and support she wanted from her parents as well. So Lady Diana was sent to boarding school, eventually attending West Heath Public School in Kent. Here she excelled at sports, particularly swimming. They said that she was an awesome swimmer, and she was even a better diver. They said that she can do the dives with basically zero splash. But she failed all her O levels. Now, I'm from the States. When I was trying to Google what O levels were, I couldn't really find much. So, I guess, is it like the SATs? Like something you take after high school or something? Nevertheless, in later years, she recalled fond school day memories and supported her old school. After school, she worked in London, first as a nanny, occasionally a cook, then an assistant at the Young England kindergarten in Knightsbridge. So that was Princess Diana's childhood briefly. Now, okay, so this is the part of the video that I am going to introduce Prince Charles. Now, I am not really going to go She was not noble enough to marry a prince in the early 70s, but discreet enough to be his lover. She had a earthiness he found irresistible. Now here's the thing. The only thing I'm going to say about Prince Charles and Camilla before I continue is I feel for them. I couldn't imagine, if you think about it, being in love with someone so much, but you know for a fact you guys can never be together. You know for a fact that you can never marry. You know for a fact that it just wouldn't work. Just because of some stupid laws. So in that sense, I really do feel for Prince Charles and Camilla, because it must suck not being able to be with the one that you truly 100% love. And for that part, my heart goes to both of them. But that being said, though, it's like I feel as if that shit was selfish, because although you two could not be together, you already knew that, but you guys still insisted on starting this relationship and then bringing everyone else down your rabbit hole. But anyway, but I do feel for that type of love, but one thing too also I want to mention about Prince Charles, it was noted that he liked girls that did not wear a lot of makeup, that was not flashy. He liked to choose girls to deal with that the paparazzi would not catch on right away, because he was tied to a lot of females. He was the next one to be king. So, but he was trying to be smart about it, And so, like I said, the people he chose weren't really the prettiest, but they were just regular people. They weren't royalty, if that makes any sense. But so yeah, like I said, they met back in 1972. They both shared a love for certain sports, hunting, polo, all of it. Prince Charles departs on a 6-month tour with the Royal Navy. Charles and Camilla are said to have a tearful farewell in the room at the palace. 1 month later, Camilla announces her engagement to Andrew Parker Bowles. Charles pleads with her not to go through with the wedding, and she does anyway. So many of you are asking, who is Andrew? Actually, Officer Andrew Parker Bowles. Well, remember that friend that I was telling you back in the beginning that Camilla was actually dating? Yeah, so she was dating Prince Charles's friend, Officer Andrew Parker Bowles. And they were dating for 6 years, Camilla and Andrew. On the 7th year, that's when she decided to cheat on Andrew with Prince Charles, but then Navy called and he had to go over to the Navy or whatever. But I feel as if, because see, here's the thing, and Prince Charles knew it and Camilla knew it. He was getting older. He had to find a bride, right? So Andrew Parker Bowles, he was considered an attractive man. He was also regarded in society as a good catch. He was also considered the best lay in London. Whatever the fuck that means, that is who Officer Andrew Parker Bowles is. Now, actually, if you want to get a better look at him, this is some shit. If you look at the wedding of Prince Charles and Princess Diana, right? You know the guy who is in the horse and carriage, pushing the carriage. He's the first first man you see pushing the carriage as the couple is waving in their wedding outfits, gown, bride, all of it. He's their first officer there. Because see, here's the thing, I kept saying to myself, why was this bitch Camilla always around, like always around? And it's because Camilla's husband, aka Prince Charles's friend, worked side by side. And baby, when I tell you, Camilla's husband, Andrew Parker, knew exactly what's going on. He didn't care. He did not care that his wife Camilla was banging Prince Charles, because you know what? Andrew was doing him. See, in that relationship, that worked. But I feel as if once Prince Charles went off to the Navy, Camilla wasn't stupid. She was trying to secure some type of royalness for herself, money, fame, because at the end of the day, like I said, they could not get married. She knew this. Prince Charles knew this, because number one, again, she was not noble enough. Number two, she was not a virgin. Number three, and this was like the top rule from the royal family, Prince Charles and the royal family had to find a woman for Prince Charles that was able to be on magazines, newspapers, stampage, postage, all of it. And when I tell you Camilla was not fitting their profile or standards, she was not fitting their profile and standards. So it was one of those, no matter what, Camilla couldn't win, period. So she's like, you know what, Charles, you're going to the Navy, deuces. I'ma marry this man that I was messing with for 6 years before you came along, and I'ma secure. But at the end of the day, it's like they could not, like I said, that was the love of their life. So, and I'm gonna tell you like this, and this is in Princess Diana's words. She said once she got married to, once Camilla got married to Officer Andrew, and Prince Charles had to get married, she believes deep down in herself that that's the moment that Camilla and Prince Charles started plotting against Princess Diana, right? She said because Diana was the perfect victim. She was young, naive, and they thought that they could mold her and that she would not be a threat to their secret relationship and affair. And I think the saddest thing I've actually ever heard Princess Diana say was that no matter what, she could never compete with Camilla, because number one, of age, she was definitely more mature because she was the same age as Charles, and two, sexually, she was more experienced, so she could not compete with that. But she said that they tried to play the smart. They thought that Diana was stupid. They thought that she did not have a voice and she was young, naive, and that they could mold her into the perfect little, I guess, I don't know, but yeah, it did not seem to go the way they thought. So let's do that recap. Camilla and Prince Charles met in 1972. He had to leave for the army in 1973 for the Navy. Camilla got married. He came back from the Navy. Now, like I said, Prince Charles is dating people because now he has to get serious about a wife. And so, let's fast forward to November 1977. Lady Diana would have been 16 years old. this real quickly. She said she remembers the first day she actually met Prince Charles. She remembers him coming to stay at Arthorpe with his dog. That's when actually Prince Charles was dating Lady Diana, Princess Diana's older sister, Sarah. You remember I told you don't forget Sarah's name? Well, Prince Charles was actually dating her first. And Diana says her sister was all over him like a bad rash. I thought, God, he must really hate that. And then I kept out the way. I remember being a fat, pudgy, non-makeup, unsmart lady, but I made a lot of noise, and he actually liked that. He came up to me after dinner. We had a long dance and said, "Will you show me the gallery?" For a 16-year-old, for someone like that, like Prince Charles, to show any attention was just sort of amazing. Why would anyone like him be interested in someone like me? Anyway, that was it for 2 years. Saw him off and on with my sister Sarah. And then she also said that Sarah was getting really, really excited about the whole thing, her dating Princess Charles. But then Sarah saw something different happening that I hadn't twigged on to yet. Charles's 30th birthday party was arriving and Sarah was invited, but Prince Charles also invited Lady Diana. And of course, Sarah was like, "Why are you invited?" And Diana was like, "I don't know, but I would like to go." And she thought, "Oh, alright." So that means Princess Diana might have been around 18 again when they linked up. And actually after that 30th birthday party, that's how kind of the romance actually started. But see, here's the thing. Under research, I came up with different, whether you want to say speculations, different stories. I wanted to know what happened between Lady Sarah and Prince Charles. And I think a couple things happened here. Number one, I think because it was reaching his 30th birthday party and he was still messing with Camilla, I think he understood that Sarah was not an option. Maybe because Sarah was not a virgin and now he actually had to pick a bride. But then there has been other speculation that she actually started doing interviews or something and started spilling the beans, and people can't seem to ever keep quiet. And it was something like, "Would you ever marry, Prince Charles?" And I don't know if it was, her trying to deceive the tabloids, didn't want to speak, whatever it was, she kind of like bashed him. And there's been speculation that Prince Charles called and said that's the worst thing you could have ever done. She was saying something like she wouldn't marry him if he was like the last man on earth, or something like that. So like I said, I don't know if she realized that she would not be a candidate, or was it that interview, or was it because Sarah was running her mouth? Either or. I honestly believe it was probably Camilla who was like, you need to go after Diana because she's young, naive, and stupid in their eyes. But I also think too, because Sarah was not a virgin, I think it was a combination of things. But whatever it was, wish Prince Charles would hurry up and get on with it, because by now the press has been hounding her, and there has been speculations that maybe Prince Charles might have been popping the question soon. So she's saying she wished that he would get on with it. The Queen was fed up. He then wrote to her, and then he rang me up and said, "I've got something very important to ask you." An instinct in a female tells you what it was. I sat up all night with my girl saying, "Christ, what am I going to do?" By that time I'd realized there was somebody else around. I've been staying at the Bowleses, Camilla Bowles, an awful lot, and couldn't understand why she, aka Camilla, kept saying to me, "Don't push him into doing this, and don't have him do that, and don't do this, and don't do that." She knew so much about what he was doing privately and about what we were doing privately. If we were going to stay here or there or here or there, I couldn't understand it. Eventually, I worked it all out and found the proof of the pudding, and people were willing to talk to me. Anyway, next day I went to Windsor, and I arrived about 5 o'clock, and he sat me down and said, "I've missed you so much." But there was never anything tactical about it. It was extraordinary, but I didn't have anything to go by because I've never had a boyfriend before. I'd always kept them away. Thought, they were all trouble, and I couldn't handle it emotionally. I was very screwed up, so I thought. Anyway, so he said, "Will you marry me?" And I laughed. I remember thinking, this is a joke, and I said, "Yeah, okay," and laughed. He was deadly, deadly serious. He said, "You do realize that one day you will be queen?" And a voice said to me inside, "You won't be queen, but you will have a tough role." So I thought, okay. So I said, yes. I said, "I love you so much. I love you so much." He says, "Whatever love means." He said it then. So I thought, that was great. I thought he meant that. And so he ran upstairs and rang his mother. In my immaturity, which was enormous, I thought that he was very much in love with me, which he was, but he always had a sort of besotted look about him. Looking back at it, but it wasn't that genuine sort. It was more like, who was this girl? Why was she so different? But he couldn't understand it because his immaturity was quite big in that department too. For me, it was like a Call of Duty, really. Go to work and work for the people. Then it really started to build up, sort of like the press were being unbearable, following my every move. I understood they had a job, but people did not understand they had binoculars on me the whole time. They hired people to buy the flat opposite, which was a library which looked into my bedroom, and it wasn't fair on the girls. I couldn't put the phone off the hook in case any of their family were ill at night or had to contact anyone. more like he was used to the press, he was used to his picture being taken, but I think he should have been a little bit more sensitive to his now fiance, right, who is not used to the paparazzi and media. And there's so many footage and video clips out on Google and YouTube of her just trying to leave work, trying to get to her little red car, and the paparazzi is just, it was like 30-40 taking her pictures, asking questions. People were bumping into one another. She's trying to purposely like run red lights so they won't like follow her. It became so ridiculous. And again, I think at this point Prince Charles was so used to it, but I think he should have been a little bit more supportive and supported his wife more when it came to that, but also to the factor that like she packed up all her stuff on the flat and then went to the palace, and then there was like nobody there to greet her, like absolutely nothing. Just very, very, very and then she's saying here there's one time that she actually called up Prince Charles to talk about all the commotion that was going on with the paparazzi, and all he kept talking about was poor Camilla, how she had paparazzi outside of her house or whatever. And Lady Diana was like, well, how many she got? And he was like 4. And she was like, my God, in her mind, there's like 34 over here. But see, at this point, she didn't want to burden her fiance. She didn't want to say anything. She was still young, naive, but you know, again, nobody there to welcome her. It was like going into a hotel. And so anyway, so now she's moved in, right? So now she's moved in, and the queen wants to, you know, show her off and everything. I just want to make sure. Yeah. So the queen wants to show off Princess Diana and everything. So they're having this big party at the palace, and this was Princess Diana's first engagement, like real royal engagement. Anything like all eyes on her, but it was one of the worst mistakes of her life. And I actually remember these photos. I don't remember why I remember them, but I remember standing at the grocery store and seeing Princess Diana in like this black dress. But let's get to. So I remember my first royal engagement so well, so excited. I got this black dress from Emmanuel's, and I thought it was okay because girls my age wore this dress. I hadn't appreciated that I was now seen as royalty. So she just in her mind was like, yeah, I'm Prince Charles's fiance, but she didn't think royal-ish. And the fact that no one even came to help her get dressed, to even make sure she looked correct for the occasion, they basically left her to basically figure it out. So again, I hadn't appreciated that I was now seen as a royal lady, although I'd only got a ring on the finger as opposed to 2 rings. I remember I saw that from afar. Oh, and then she goes on to say it was an horrendous occasion. I didn't know whether to go out the door first. I didn't know whether your hand should be in your left hand or right hand, how to put your pocketbook, how to walk, how to do this, how to do that. She didn't know anything. So this black dress, so it was a black dress off the shoulder. It was really low cut off the shoulder, you know. It was really beautiful, but like for royalty, you don't wear stuff that's that revealing. And of course, the stupid paparazzi, as she mentioned, she was kind of big chested at the time, and all the cameras directed right in her boob area. So anytime she like bent down or did anything, it was like the photos were emphasizing on her breast. And she said she felt all eyes on her. People were talking about her, and the only person that actually took the time out to sit her down and talk about certain things was Princess Margaret. And if anyone watches The Crown, Princess Margaret is actually Queen Elizabeth's sister. In my eyes, she was the down-to-earth sister. Matter of fact, I think she probably would have been a better queen. But I don't. Let's not get into that. But anyway, it was Princess Margaret that actually gave her some pointers and stuff like that. But they just kind of like, you know, threw her to the wolves and expected her to figure it out. Like she said, I remember that evening so well. I was terrified, nearly sick. So yeah, that was like the first engagement that completely went wrong, that actually hit the tabloids like boo. So we had the engagement party. She was embarrassed. The media made a whole circus out of that whole black engagement party situation. The royal family was embarrassed. Again, the only person who helped out was Princess Margaret. Now, this is the meeting of Camilla. Listen to this shit, right? So, I met her, Camilla, very early on. I was introduced to the circle, but I was a threat. I was a very young girl, but I was a threat. We always had discussions about Camilla, though. I once heard him on the telephone in the bath on the handheld set saying, "Whatever happens, I will always love you." I told him afterwards that I had listened at the door and we had a filthy row. I assume that means like a filthy argument, because I would have cursed him the fuck out. But remember, we are still in engagement phase. When I arrived at Clarence's house, there was a letter on my bed from Camilla, dated 2 days previously, saying, "Such exciting news about the engagement. Let's have lunch soon when the Prince of Wales goes to Australia and New Zealand. He's going to be away for 3 weeks. I love to see the ring. Lots of love, Camilla." And that was, wow. So I organized lunch. We had lunch, and bear in mind that I was so immature. I didn't know about jealousy or depression or anything like that. I had such a wonderful existence being a kindergarten teacher. You didn't suffer from anything like that. You got tired, but that was it. There was no one around to give you grief. So we had lunch. Very tricky indeed, she said. "You are not going to hunt, are you?" I said, "On what?" She said, "Horse. You're not going to hunt when you go and live on High Grove, are you?" I said, "No." She said, "I just wanted to know." And I far as she was concerned, that was her communication route. Still, too immature to understand all the messages coming my way. So in Camilla's mind, she's like, okay, so Princess Diana won't be going hunting. She doesn't ride horses. Okay, so that's when I can secretly see Prince Charles. Got it. But like Princess Diana said, she was way too immature to understand all the messages coming her way. Anyway, somebody in his office told me that my husband had a bracelet made for her, which she wears to this day. It's a gold chain bracelet with a blue emerald disc. It's got G and F entwined in it, Gladys and Fred. That was their nicknames. I walked into this man's office one day and said, "Oh, what's in the box?" He said, "Oh, you shouldn't look at that." I said, "Well, I'm going to look at it." I opened it, and there was a bracelet, and I said, "I know where this is going." I was devastated. This was about 2 weeks before we got married. He said, "Well, he's going to give it to her tonight." So rage. Why can't you be honest with me? But no, he, meaning Prince Charles, got me absolutely dead. It's as if he had made his decision, as if it wasn't going to work. It just wasn't going to work. He found his virgin, the sacrificial lamb, and in a way, he was obsessed with me. But it was hot and cold. You never knew what mood it was going to be. Up and down. He took the bracelet. Lunchtime on Monday. We got married on the Wednesday. I went to the policeman who was back in the office and said, "John, where's Prince Charles?" My stomach is making sounds. We are hungry. Ignore it. And he said, "Oh, he's gone out for lunch." So I said, "Why are you here? Shouldn't you be with him?" "Oh, I'm going to go collect him later." See, here's the thing. It must be like really also too like embarrassing and humiliating as you're supposed to be like his wife or his fiance, and everyone down to the cooks, the chauffeury, his bodyguard, whatever, everyone else around you knows what's going on. They know what he's doing. Like, you have to feel like I don't even know. And at this point, he's asking his bodyguard, like, "Where is he?" "Oh, out for lunch." Like, shouldn't you be with him? So she knew. After that, she said, I went upstairs, had lunch with my sisters who were there, and I said, "I can't marry him. I can't do this. This is absolutely unbelievable." They were wonderful and said, "Well, bad luck, Dutch. Your face is on the tea towel, so you're too late to chicken out." So we made light of it. One impression of the palace, I couldn't believe how cold everyone was, how I thought one thing, but actually another thing was going on. The lies and the deceit. The first thing that hit me was my husband sending Camilla flowers when she had meningitis. To Gladys and Fred. I'd never dealt with that side of things. I just said to him, "You must always be honest with me." On our honeymoon, for instance, we were opening up our diaries to discuss various things. Now this is on their honeymoon, okay? Out comes 2 pictures of Camilla. On our honeymoon, we have our white tie dinner for the president of Egypt. Cufflinks only one here when planning the wedding because he had pushed off to Australia and New Zealand on tour. And you may recall, of course, the picture of me sobbing in a red coat when he went off in the airplane. I'm telling you, when I was reading some of this stuff, I had to Google like some of these pictures, and there is a picture, like she says, if you may recall, of course, the picture of me sobbing in a red coat when he went off in the airplane. It had nothing to do with him going. The most awful thing had happened before he went. I was in the study talking to him when the telephone rang. It was Camilla, just before he was going for 5 weeks. I thought, shall I be nice or shall I just sit here? So I thought, I'll be nice. So I left him to it. It just broke my heart. Could you imagine, like, you know, you're about to go away for 5 weeks. I think they were planning. Yeah, she goes, I was the only one here planning the wedding. And before you go away for 5 weeks or whatever, your fiance rather talk to his mistress or his side chick instead of you. Like, that's crazy, but it's true. Like, she's in a red coat and you see her like smiling and people thinking she's crying because her husband is going away on another Royal Navy tour, whatever they call it. No, she was pissed. This bitch Camilla was messing with her. She wasn't going anywhere between, like, that letter on that pillow was some bullshit. If you ask me, that pillow was some actual bullshit. But anyway, so the wedding, great anticipation, happiness because it crowds. By the way, if my numbers are accurate, I think I saw, I think it was like 700. Oh, here it is. Okay, it was, there was about like, 2.5. Oh, a 2.5 billion watched for the funeral. Almost a billion people watched over 74 countries. It was actually 750 million people televised watched this wedding over 74 countries, and there was about like between, the numbers keep varying, between 600 to 900,000 people outside actually, you know, wanting to watch this wedding. Now, again, great anticipation, happiness because the crowds were excited. I don't think I was happy. We got married on Wednesday, and on that Monday we had gone to St. Paul's for our last rehearsal, and that's when the camera's lights were on full and a sense of what that day was going to be like. I sobbed my eyes out, absolutely collapsed, and it was collapsing because of all sorts of things. The Camilla thing back in her head the whole way through their engagement party rehearsal, and I was desperately trying to be mature about the situation, but I didn't have the foundation to do it, and I couldn't talk to anyone about it. So as they're approaching like wedding day, she's basically saying, between the whole Camilla thing, them fighting over it, the gifts, Camilla not going anywhere, and him not even like really sticking up for her, always sticking up for like Camilla, you know, she just knew something wasn't right. She had no one to talk to. She spoke to her sisters, but like she said, it's basically too late. Like, you have to go through with the wedding now, you know. So everything just crashing down to her. And then she says, I remember my husband being very tired, both of us very quite tired. Big day. He sent me a very nice ring the night before to Clarence's house with the Prince of Wales not sure what letter bothers me more, Camilla or his bitch ass letter. Like, okay. I had a very bad fit with bulimia that night. Bulimia is a eating disorder. It's the one that you eat everything in sight and then you make yourself throw up. Now, I wanted to mention that she mentioned herself in her own words that her bulimia started the week after they got engaged. Charles put his arms around her waist and said, "Oh, a bit chubby here, aren't we?" Somehow or another, it triggered something bad in her. It just triggered her. From February to July, hear what I'm saying to you, from February to July, when she got measured for her wedding dress in February, she was a size 29 around the waist. Her wedding was in July. She was 23 and a half. She shrunk to absolutely nothing. And so she's saying she had a very bad fit of bulimia the night before. I do know at one point she said her bulimia was so bad that she was doing it 4 times a day. Four times a day. 4 times a day she was doing it. That's how bad she got. Just being very unhappy. A lot of insecurities. So, I had a very bad fit with bulimia the night before. I ate everything I could possibly find, which amused my sister Jane because she was staying with me at the house, and nobody else understood what was going on. It was very hush hush. I was so sick the night before. It was such a cry for help and indication on what was going on. So anyway, the next day she said she was very calm. She woke up at 5 o'clock in the morning. She said she was deathly calm. Her father was excited. Her father waved himself stupid. He was just, everyone was happy but her. She said, as I walked up the aisle, I was looking for Camilla. I knew she was in there, of course. I looked for her. Anyway, I got to the top. I thought the whole thing was still hysterical. Getting married. In the sense that it was just like, it was so grown up. And here was Diana, a kindergarten aid teacher. The whole thing was ridiculous. So, remember, I kept telling us, that us females, we have something called intuition. It's a hell of a thing we have. And not just women, but like, as humans, we have intuitions. And she just knew that this was ridiculous. She knew it wasn't real, but she wanted it to be real. Like she said, she was still very immature, had no clue. She had no clue what she was getting into. She had no idea about like the paparazzi and what would come with all of it. She had no clue, poor thing. I cried a lot on that Monday when we done the rehearsal because the tension had suddenly hit me. But by Wednesday I was fine. I had to get my father basically up the aisle, and that's what I was concerned about and concentrated on. And then of course she said she was terribly worried about, not impressing the queen or embarrassing the queen. Then she goes on to say, I remember being so in love with my husband that I couldn't take my eyes off him. I just absolutely thought I was the luckiest girl in the world. He was going to look after me. Well, was I wrong on that assumption? So walking down the aisle, I spotted Camilla. How disrespectful is this bullshit? Like, could you imagine you walking down the aisle of your own wedding and then spot the heifer is in the audience. I'm actually the one marrying Prince Charles. So that's that. She really thought that that was gonna stop their affair. She won because she's walking down the aisle, and she couldn't be more wrong than. And then she said at the St. Paul's Church, it was a wonderful feeling. Everybody hurraying, everybody happy because they thought we were happy. And there was this big question mark in my mind. I realized I had taken on an enormous role, but had no idea what I was going into. I had absolutely no idea. So, back at the palace, did all the photographs, nothing tactical, nothing. I was basically wandering around trying to find where I should be, clutching my long train with my bridesmaids and pages. Got out on the balcony, overwhelming with what I saw, so humble making, all these thousands, hundreds and thousands of people happy. It was just so wonderful. Sat next to him at the wedding breakfast, which was a lunch. Neither of us spoke to each other. We were so shattered. I was exhausted at the whole thing. My mother let me down terribly with the wedding. She kept crying and being all lint and saying she couldn't cope with the pressure. I tended to think that I was the one under pressure. I do remember also actually reading that her mother, Princess Diana, mother also married when she was young to someone senior. Princess Diana and Prince Charles are 12 years apart. If I do remember correctly, her mother and her father were 16 years apart. And I remember her mother was warning her about this royal family. And warning, like, are you marrying the royal family or are you marrying this man for love? It seemed as if she was trying to warn her. But, like everybody always thinks they're in love, they know everything else. So anyway, she kept crying and saying that she couldn't cope with the pressure. I tended to think that I was the only one under pressure because I was the bride, so I didn't speak to her for 3 or 4 years after that. She drove me mad when I was engaged. Mad, mad, mad. It was me that was being strong and her sobbing the whole time. And then anyway, it says that her mother was really, really hurt because Princess Diana did not, really include her in the wedding preparations. She really wasn't in the wedding photos and stuff like that. And her mother never really got over it, and she's been on Valium ever since. So the honeymoon, I never try to call it off in the sense of really doing that, but the worst moment was when we got to Broadland. I thought, it was just grim. I just had a tremendous amount of hope, which was slashed by day 2. Went to Broadlands. Second night, out came okay, so basically what she was saying here is that the honeymoon was a disaster. All the prince wanted to do was just read a book. He really paid no interest in her whatsoever. Then she said they had to entertain all the top people on this yacht every night, or a cruise ship. So basically there was really never time for themselves. She found it very, very difficult to accept the fact that someone was always around, no privacy. it just shows that he like had like no total interest in her whatsoever. And like again, it was just like this was like the trophy, his trophy wife. He didn't care for her feelings, her emotions, anything. And the more that she expressed her feelings, the more that Charles just got like colder and colder and colder. And the more she expressed her feelings, it seemed as if the more it just kept pushing him more towards Camilla. So we survived that. Alright, so they survived all of that. Like, I don't know, right now she's probably feeling so abandoned. Then they're still traveling. So anyway, there was a realization for her that set in, that she now knew she was completely unhappy. Her dreams were appalling. They were getting worse. At night, all she can do is dream about Camilla the whole time. Charles, thank God, actually, I think they consider a therapist to come and help her. The therapist did not understand her at all. Everybody saw that she was getting thinner and thinner, and I was being sicker and sicker. Basically, they thought I could adapt to being Princess of Wales overnight. Anyway, a godsend, William was conceived in October. Marvelous news occupied my mind. Obsessed by Camilla totally, didn't trust him. Thought every 5 minutes he was ringing her up asking how to handle his marriage. Something like that. Like I said, that can literally drive you crazy. Thinking every 5 seconds that your other significant others doing this, doing that, have nowhere to turn. You're having dreams about the affair. Like, mental health is so important. Like, money, all that stuff. I'd rather walk away and live in a shoebox than to have like just a peace of mind. Again, obsessed with Camilla totally. She didn't trust him no matter where he went. She thought he was calling her every 5 minutes. I don't know, she felt as if everything around her was changing her, and the only concern for her, and the only difference for her, is people now calling her ma'am and your royal highness and all that stuff. Then she used to say Charles and her used to go for long walks around the palace when they were on their honeymoon, but all that stopped. It seemed as if once the cameras were down, the photograph was down, the wedding was over with, the tabloids got their picture. Princess Diana was now pregnant. It was like he basically did his job, so it was like basically like leave him alone. Anyway, so now she's pregnant. She got terribly thin. People started commenting, your bones are showing. So that was October, and then we stayed up there. So I want to say also too, it's coming. So from August to October, so remember they got married in July. And just like I said, the tours, it was not like how like you and I get married, right? We get married, we go to a church, we have a wedding, we have a party, and that's that. These people gotta go to like 74 countries, they gotta wave like 1,000,005,000 times a day. They gotta do interviews, all that stuff. And by the way, if you Google Princess Diana and Prince Charles's interview, especially that engagement interview, it was very cringy. It was very weird. He kept saying that same sentence again. Oh, whatever love means. Like he's never publicly came out and said that he loved Princess sure said that he loved Camilla, but you know. So again, married in July, they've been on tour. By October, she was in a very, very bad way. I was so depressed, Diana's words, and I was trying to cut my wrist with razor blades. She had it. She knew she was way over her head. She just was depressed. Another woman. Just all of it. It rained and rained and rained and rained. Then she came back to Balmoral to seek treatment, not because I hated, but because I was in such a bad way. Anyway, came down here to London. All the analysts and psychiatrists you could ever dream of came plotting and trying to sort me out, put me on high dosages of volumes and pills and everything else. But the Diana that was still very much there had decided it was just time. Patience and adapting was all I needed. It was telling me what to tell them that I needed. They were telling me that I needed pills. The pill thing that was going to keep them happy. They can go to bed at night and sleep knowing the Princess of Wales wasn't going to stab anyone. In those days, my greatest pleasure was that I was lucky enough to have a baby on the way. Got married in July, and William was on the way by October. So, like she said, somehow or another, she got pregnant in between there, which is crazy because the way she says it in the interview is like, I don't remember us even having sex. Like, you know, so this pregnancy was very, very terrible for her, right? And for some strange reason, I have no idea, but no one in the royal family ever had morning sickness with any other pregnancies, so they just thought that she was being extra dramatic. I mean, I know some women don't have morning sickness, but to say no one ever in the royal family ever had sickness is just like crazy for me. Please hold, because it's cold in my bedroom. It's cold in New York, period, and I need a blanket, so please hold. Yeah, y'all, I don't know what's going on in New York, but it is cold as fuck. Anyway, so she couldn't sleep, didn't eat, whole world was collapsing around me. Very, very difficult pregnancy indeed. Sick the whole time. Bulimia and morning sickness. People try to put me on pills to stop me from being sick. I refused to risk the child becoming handicapped as a result. So sick, so sick, 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 sick. And this family's never had anybody who's had morning sickness before. Like I just mentioned, I find that very weird. So of course, every time she was in her evening dress or felt faint or wanted to be sick, the royal family found her embarrassing. And there, of course, they were claiming it's her fault because she wasn't reading her baby books or whatever. And so she was the problem. She was the one that was trying to do attention. She was different. She's doing everything that we never did. Why? Oh, poor Charles is having such a hard time. And so anyway, it's like she couldn't do no right whatsoever. So listen up, this next part is a little, I it was a nuisance to the setup, and I was made to feel it was a nuisance to be actually set up. So it's like they're making her feel as if like, oh my god, you're throwing up again. Oh my god, like no one ever had morning sickness. You just want attention. You know, I just couldn't even. You can't even talk to your husband about it. Suddenly, in the middle of a black dress and black, I guess she means when they say that, like a black dress event, I would go out to be sick and come back again, and they'll say, why didn't she go out to bed? I felt it was my duty to sit at the table. Duty was all over the shop. I didn't know which way to turn at all, because like if she went to bed, right, then she would be like the unsupportive wife, and she's not strong, and she's not this. And then if she threw out at the table, it's like, you know, she wants attention, and why is she throwing up? It's like she could never win. And I think the worst things too out of all of this is like not having anyone to actually talk to about the situation, you know. No one to trust. You don't know who's gonna run back and say what, you know. There was only ever one cancellation when I was carrying William, the visit to the Dutch of Cornwall's estate, and I was made to feel so guilty by my husband for that. Every time I got out the bed, I was sick. That was the only cancellation, and the nerve, like men not understanding what women go through during these pregnancies, because I've heard some crazy stories. Just the factor of you giving her shit about missing one event is crazy. Then there was a question done by the interviewer. There was something on the tabloids that it said that Princess Diana fell down the stairs. So the interviewer was asking about that, and she said, no, I threw myself down the stairs. Charles said I was crying wolf, and I said I felt so depressed, so desperate, and I was crying my eyes out, and he said, I'm not going to listen to this. You're always doing this to me. I'm going riding now, and we all know what riding means, Camilla. So I threw myself down the stairs. The queen comes out, absolutely horrified, shaken. She was so frightened. I knew I wasn't going to lose the baby, quite bruised around the stomach. Charles went out riding anyway, and when he came back, you know, it was just a dismissal, a total dismissal. He just carried on out the door, came back like nothing happened. The birth of William. When we had William, we had to find a date in the diary that suited him and his polo. William had to be induced because I couldn't handle the press pressure anymore. It was becoming unbearable. It was as if everybody was monitoring me every day, my every move. Anyway, we went in very early. I was sick as a parrot the whole way through the labor. Very, very bad labor. They wanted a C-section. No one told me this until afterwards. Anyway, the boy arrived. Great excitement. Thrilled. Everyone absolutely high as a kite. We had found a date where Charles can get off his polo pony for me to give birth. That was very nice of him. Felt very grateful about that. When the queen came to see William in the hospital after Diana had given birth, she looked in the incubator and said, thank goodness he hadn't got ears like his father. Came home, then postnatal depression hit me hard, and it wasn't so much the baby that had produced it. It was the baby that triggered off all else that was going on in my mind. Boy, was I troubled. If he didn't come home when he said he was coming home, I thought something dreadful had happened to him. William's christening, I was treated like nobody else's business on August 4th, 1982. Nobody asked me when it was a suitable time for William. 11 o'clock couldn't have been any worse. Endless pictures of the Queen, Queen Mother, Charles, and William. I was excluded totally that day. I felt desperate because I had literally just given birth. William was only 6 weeks old, and it was all decided around me. Hence, the ghastly pictures. Everything was out of control. Everything. I wasn't very well, and I blubbed my eyes out. William started crying too. Well, he just sensed that I wasn't exactly hunky-dory. So by doing again my research, there is footage of the royal family that day taking pictures with William, and you can just see there's just not one smile from Diana, and if so, it was completely forced. And then I think she's in one photo, but everything else is just Queen Mother, Queen Elizabeth. She literally was excluded from that day. Again, she was just this trophy wife that was just supposed to pop out babies. Young, beautiful, sit down and shut up. So I just think that was, Okay, so then from then on we talk about royal life, how she just had to deal with the situation. She realized she was going to get no help in the royal family, no friends, no family. She realized that her husband was still going to see Camilla, and she had to do things, her own way. At one point, she was too frightened to do this. She was too, the thought of me doing anything on my own set tremors. So I was so stuck with whatever Charles did. She wasn't that independent person quite yet, right? But as time got on and stuff, she started, getting her own little voice. Building up her wardrobe. If you notice from the time Princess Diana, when she first got on the set until her passing, you see her evolution of her from then until she passed. She was very fashionable. She had to figure it out. She wasn't gonna be sucked into this royal family completely. Yeah, you can bring me the gowns, but she was always readjusting them. She was always getting jewels from other people, from presidents from other countries. She was loved. She would turn her jewels, her treasures into earrings and headbands, and she just became she figured it out. She understood the excitement. At first she did not understand the excitement, but then she did. And then she just started having her own type of fashion, her own confidence. One thing too, I also want to point out here is she never, ever, ever actually wore high heels in the beginning. In the beginning, she always wore flats because she did not want to mess up Prince Charles's ego. He was short, and with heels, he would look smaller than her. Also, too, at one point, it became a jealousy thing. Prince Charles became very, very, very jealous of Princess Diana. At one point, it was all about her. The tabloids, the TVs, everybody wanted to know about Princess Diana. I think the then she said she had to figure it out. She had to find a niche where she was happy as far as like designer and what was required of her. So again, she had to figure it out. Then of course the media got things started getting a little bit easier, but of course the more years went into it, the more the paparazzi, the more she just had no more privacy whatsoever. And these overseas tours, like the royal family, they have all these tours. I don't know what these tours endure, but this shit be like for years, right? Just going around. People are waiting for their arrival. The waves, the car, like a parade, like they do, like these royal overseas tours or something. It's not like the president of the United States, like when he gets elected or whatever, he has one day of waving, the inauguration. Like it's just one day. This royal shit is like for weeks and weeks. See, this one was 6 weeks. That's crazy. From like Australia to New Zealand, like, yeah, thousands and thousands of press following them. It was just non-stop. And the more paparazzi, probably the more anxiety she got. But again, the more paparazzi, the more like I said, Prince Charles, he was getting really, really jealous. He was getting jealous of the spotlight. He even made a joke on one of those interviews that he did, saying something like it would have been better to have 2 wives, one on each side, so the media coverage can cover it both. Like he was hating. He did not like the fact that his wife was outshining him. He did not like the fact that the public liked her more than him. It just, so now it's like, and the crazy thing about it is, it's like, how dare you? You're mad about your wife. You chose her. You're the one still cheating. You're giving her no moral support. And then the really first big fight, except for Camilla, was when they went on the tour about bringing Prince Charles on such a tour when he was so young. And so yeah, and so it's like she didn't really even have any say so really around like where she can even bring her own child. It's like she was totally just excluded. Alright, so let's see. So now they're married. We did that. So I guess we're moving right along to her second pregnancy. So like I said, their marriage is basically a mess. And it's basically because of Camilla and the lack of support and love that Prince Charles refused to give his wife, Princess Diana. Then between William and Harry being born, it is a total darkness. I can't remember much. I blotted it out. It was such pain. However, Harry appeared by a miracle. We were very, very close to each other the 6 weeks before Harry was born. So it's funny, like they're bickering, going to shits, and then 6 weeks prior to Harry, their second child, being born, they were closer than ever. I don't know if it was like just the excitement of having another child or whatever. I don't know, but they were very, very close to each other weeks before Harry was born. The closest they have ever been I knew Harry was a boy and I didn't tell him. Harry arrived. Harry had red hair. Harry was a boy. First comment from Prince Charles. Oh God, it's a boy. Second comment, and he's even got red hair. Something inside of me closed off, but then I knew he had gone back to his lady, but somehow we managed to have Harry. Harry was a complete joy, and is actually closer to his father than perhaps William at that moment. That's sad. I'm trying to think. So anyway, the birth of Harry happened. Then Prince Charles went to talk to his mother at Harry's christening and said, "We were so disappointed. We thought it would be a girl." And this is Prince Charles actually talking to... Oh, this is actually talking to Princess Diana's mother. So Prince Charles had the audacity to go to Princess Diana's mother and say, "We were so disappointed. We thought it would be a girl." Mommy snapped his head off, saying, "We should realize how lucky you are to have a child. That's normal." Ever since that day, the shutters have come down, and that what he does when he gets somebody answering back at him. So basically, if anyone talks back to the royal family, they're just shut out. Period. The shutters have come down. They're closed. That's it. That's that. And so the next one says, relations with the royal family of the Queen. The relationship certainly changed when we got engaged because I was a threat. Wasn't I? I admired her. I longed to get inside her mind and talk to her, and I will. I've always said to her, "I'll never let you down, but I cannot say the same for your son." She took it quite well. She does relax with me. She indicated to me that the reason why our marriage had gone downhill was because Prince Charles was having such a difficult time with my bulimia. She told me that. I remember because the interview question was, "Did the Queen know about your bulimia and this and that?" And her response to it was, she indicated to me that the reason why our marriage had been done was because Prince Charles was having such a difficult time with my bulimia. She told her just like that. She hung her coat on the hook, so to speak, and it made me realize that they all saw that as a cause of the marriage problems and not one of the symptoms. Listen, people have problems listening. Listen to what she says. It made me realize that they all saw that as the cause of the marriage. That the bulimia was the cause of the marriage and not one of the symptoms. Again, I kept to myself. I didn't knock on her door and ask for advice because I knew the answer myself. I get on with them. I get on very well with them, her parents-in-law, but I don't go out of my way and have tea with them. So this is interesting. Hold on. Just this paragraph caught my attention. It was titled Prince Charles. It says, "I was," meaning Princess Diana, "was accused very early on of stopping him shooting and hunting. That was total rubbish. He suddenly went all vegetarian and wouldn't kill. His family thought had gone mad, and he was and had the whole family. They couldn't understand it, and they were fearful of the future. All the states have things that need to be done. See, this is my problem. Like, besides thinking that maybe he just doesn't want to go hunting anymore, you know, but like they're gonna sit there and blame Princess Diana and all this stuff, and what's gonna happen to this and what's gonna happen to that. It's like no one really cares for anyone else's feelings or emotions. It's all about the family name, no matter what. So if the heir wasn't going to take on interest, panic was going to set in. It wasn't influenced well before me, but it all came back eventually in its own time. He does that. He has these craze, and then he drops them. So there are so many people outside my window. I have no idea. Hold on. So anyway, by now they have 2 children, William and Harry. Their marriage is a complete disaster. Jealousy. Camilla's still around. Media was getting way too much. The media was actually starting to notice that they weren't smiling in the car, they weren't affectionate, they weren't holding hands. The public started noticing their distance, and it just like, and she claims it here, it was like Marilyn Monroe publicity, and she can never understand it. She thought that was very, very, very weird. She only had to click her heels and the whole world was at her feet. It was very odd. I'm never comfortable in it. Never ever. I was absolutely mesmerized by the whole thing. I couldn't believe it. The royal family all thought, oh, she gets lots of press. She must be doing all right. One of the worst things that ever happened was we went to Wales after the flooding in 1987. There had been a tremendous amount of press about Charles and I being apart, and we got into the jet and I burst into tears. He said, oh God, what's the matter now? And I said, I've had a very bad time in the press because they literally haunt me all the time. And he said, well, if you were in the right place, none of this would happen, indicating that I should be up in Scotland. But I said, I choose to work because that's my role in life. And it was terrible. He completely ignored me. It was a real cry for help. I wasn't crying because I just turned the taps on. It was depression, desperation, and it showed in all the photographs. So by now, it's like people are loving her. People are loving her charity work. People just love her, period. But like the tabloids are now getting whiffed of like, you know, she's not happy. She's always looked like she's crying. They're not popping up at events anymore. It just was like, you know, I think an awful lot of people tried to help me because they saw something going wrong, but I never let anyone in. None of my family knew about this. Jane, my sister, after 5 years of being married, came on to check on me. So remember, before she was telling them what's going on, but in the last 5 years they knew nothing. So the 5 years they finally came to check up on her. I had a V-neck on and shorts. She said, Touch, which is Diana's childhood nickname. What's that marking on your chest? I said, oh, it's nothing. She said, what is that? And the night before, I wanted to talk to Charles about something. He wouldn't listen to me. He said I was crying wolf. So suicide attempts. I was running around with a lemon knife, one with the sharpest edges. I was just so desperate. I knew what was wrong with me, but nobody else around me understood. Nobody was listening. Nobody cared. I needed rest and to be looked after inside my house, for people to understand the torment, the anguish going on in my head. It was a desperate call for help. I'm not spoiled. I just needed to be allowed to adapt to my new position. And so I think from the time she said yes, it's just been ongoing, non-stop. And so could you imagine being in this world that everybody wants your attention, everybody wants your picture, everyone's following you, everyone's doing all types of stuff, and the only person you really want attention from is your husband, and he's basically like, fuck you. You know, you really can't talk to your family members. And also too, you want to be mindful on who you're talking to, because you never know who's going to go back and repeat it. I do know on some occasions she thought that her phones were tapped. She thought that people were listening in, that there were secret recordings in her bedroom. She was a prisoner. She couldn't go anywhere. She couldn't have any friends. You know, and so you can just imagine, like, non-stop going for 5 years, from these stores to babies to the paparazzi to this to that. Then Princess Diana says, I don't know what my husband fed her, the queen. He definitely told her about my bulimia, and she told everybody. And that was the reason why our marriage had cracked up, because Diana's eating, and it must be so difficult for Charles. It was at the expo in Canada where I passed out. I remember I had never fainted before in my life. We'd been walking around for hours. We hadn't had any food, and presumably I hadn't eaten for days beforehand. And when I say I mean food staying down. Remember walking around feeling really ghastly. I didn't tell anyone I felt ghastly, because I thought they'd think I was whining. I put my arm around my husband's shoulder and said, Darling, I think I'm about to disappear, and slid down the side of him. Okay, and then she was taken to her room at the time. My husband told me off. He said I could have passed out quietly somewhere else behind a door. It was all very embarrassing. My argument was I didn't know anything about fainting. Everyone was very concerned. I fainted in the American section. While Anne and David were bringing me around, Charles went on around the expedition. He left me to it. He left me by myself. Didn't care how I felt or why I even fainted. I got back to the hotel, Vancouver, and cried my eyes out. Basically, I was overtired, exhausted, and on my knees because I hadn't gotten any food inside of me. Everyone was saying I can't go out tonight. She must have some sleep. Charles said she must go out tonight, otherwise there's going to be a sense of terrific trauma, and they're going to think there's something really awful wrong with her. Inside me, I knew there was something wrong with me, but I was too immature to voice it. A doctor came in and saw me. I told him I was being sick. He didn't know what to say because the issue was too big for him to handle. He just gave me a pill and shut me up. It was all very strange. I just felt miserable. I knew the bulimia started the week after we got engaged, and we already went into that. I didn't get any choice over the people I met for therapy, doctor. just saying, suck it up, make, be Charles's wife. Poor Charles, you're probably crying wolf. You want, your husband's attention, blah, 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 blah. And of course, she's saying the public side was very different from the private side. The public side, they wanted a fairy tale princess to come and touch them, and everything will turn into gold, and all their worries would be forgotten. Little did they realize that the individual was crucifying herself inside because she didn't think she was good enough. Why me? Why all this publicity? My husband started to get very jealous and anxious by then too. Inside the system, I was treated very differently, as though I was an oddball, and I felt like I was an oddball, and so I thought I wasn't good enough. But now I think about it. But now I think it's good to be the oddball. Thank God, and thank God for thank God. And then it goes on to say Prince Charles ignores me everywhere, ignored everywhere, and has been ignoring me for a long time. But if the people choose to see that, then that's what they choose to see. The worst day of my life was realizing that Charles had fully 100% had gone back to Camilla. So yeah, so like I said, the years of suffering was just the fact that knowing that her husband went back to Camilla, just desperation, the paparazzi, the media, all of it. Anyone who has dealt with or have any feeling whatsoever in regards to mental health, you can understand that, like, anything triggering insecurity, it really, I'm telling you, there's nothing more than having a peace of mind in life. There's really nothing more valuable than that, if I'm being honest. But I will never forget, like, when she goes more into details about the jealousy. Her husband was so jealous of her. He was so jealous. I mean, you guys have no idea. And little by little, she went from wearing flats to like a half an inch to an inch to an inch and a half. Like, her heels kept getting bigger and bigger, because at one point she was like, fuck that, I don't give a shit about this little shrimp. He's like cheating on me. Everybody knew it. The queen mother knew it. But again, it's like, it's okay because he was the prince. I don't know. But road to recovery. I think the bulimia actually woke me up. I suddenly realized what I was going to lose if I let it get any worse. And then one of her friends called her up, asking her, do you realize that if you're sick, if you throw up potassium and magnesium, you get these hideous depressions? I said, no. Well, presumably that's what you're suffering from. Has anyone ever told you that? I said, no. You must tell a doctor. I said, I can't. She said, you must. I'll give you 1 hour to ring up your doctor, and if you don't, I'm going to tell the world. So of course she had one friend in her corner, and finally she's now getting the help that she needs, besides a doctor or a therapist just trying to throw her medication or shut her up her pills. Someone's actually giving her hope, and her friend is threatening her, saying, I'll give you 1 hour, I'm gonna give you privacy to ring up this doctor, and if you don't, I'm gonna tell the whole world. She was so angry with me. So that's how I got involved with the shrink called Marie's Lip Stitch. He came along, a sweetheart, very once a week for an hour, and we're just going to talk. There's nothing wrong with you. It's your husband. And when he said that, I thought maybe it's not me. He helped me get back my self-esteem and gave me books to read. I kept thinking, this is me. This is me. I'm not the only person. The doctor told me in 6 months' time, you won't recognize yourself. If you keep your food down, you will change completely. I must say, it's like being born again. Since then, just odd outbursts. Lots of odd outbursts. But then she goes on to say things get better. She had many outbursts, and last year I was all night. It was once every 3 weeks. So anyway, it just, as time got on, it was like all the damn outbursts, and it got little by little got better and better and better. And then, because at one point it was 4 times a day. But now she got it down to once every 3 weeks. So from 4 days a week to, once every 3 weeks. It's like, what, once a month? That was a big hooray for us on her part, absolutely. And she did say her skin never suffered from it, nor her teeth. When you think of all that acid, I was amazed at my hair. So she was actually amazed, because one thing about bulimia that I always said, that because of the acid from your stomach acid, it can actually really, really ruin your teeth, your gums, and everything else. And so then she just said, from my point of view, I thought because the public saw a smiling picture on the front of the Daily Mail, they think I was alright, but I guess they did wonder, but nobody voiced it. I think one thing, especially about social media, that people forget that celebrities are also human as well. It's hard to smile for everyone else, but you're actually dying inside. That's why I always tell people, be kind to everyone, because you have no idea what's going on in their home life. You have no idea what's going on inside. You have no idea what people are thinking. You just have no idea. Just because you see a smile on social media, or a couple is smiling, and a lot of people do that, like, oh, I wish I had their perfect relationship. Look how happy they look. Yeah, look how happy they look, but are they actually happy is the question. So I always say, like, watch. When people say, oh, I want so-and-so's life, watch what you wish for. So, but anyway, she was getting her confidence back, all of it. And then her therapist is telling her, one day you're gonna be able to let all of it out. One day you will be happy. And the therapist understood that she was really, really young when she got into this whole position. I think also too, the therapist might have made her realize like what the objective was from like day one, with Camilla and Prince Charles, and just kind of molding Princess Diana. But so now she has therapy. Now she has stopped, not completely stopped, but she's like 95% okay with the bulimia, right? But one of her bravest moments of her entire 10 years with this whole marriage, with this whole Camilla, Prince Charles and everything, was when we went to this ghastly party for Camilla's sister's 40th I don't think I understand this part, and I was feeling frightfully brave and bold, and basically Diana's going to come away having done her own bit. I guess basically saying that she's gonna come in and make a scene. I don't know. So anyway, the whole way down to this party, Prince Charles is like, why are you going? You shouldn't be going, blah blah blah. She calls it, you hear my stomach, we're hungry. She calls it, he needles me the whole way down to Ham Common, where the party was. Oh, why are you coming tonight? Needle, 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 the whole way down. I didn't bite, but I was very, 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 very on edge. Anyway, I walked into the house and stuck my hand out for Camilla for the first time, and think, phew, I got that out the way, so she didn't kiss her for the first time. There was about 40 of us there, and we all sat down, and bearing in mind they were all my husband's age, I was a total fish out of water, but I decided I'm going to try my hardest. I was going to make an impact, and people was going to know I was here. And then after dinner, we were all upstairs, and I was chatting away, and suddenly noticed there was no Camilla and no Charles upstairs. So this disturbed me. So I make my way to go downstairs. I know what I'm going to confront myself with. They tried to stop me from going downstairs. Oh, Diana, don't go down there. I'm just going to find my husband. I would like to see him. And the fact that people knew and tried to stop her, it's like the embarrassment of this whole situation. I had been upstairs about an hour and a half, so I was entitled to go down and find him. I go downstairs, and there is a very happy little threesome going on downstairs. Camilla, Charles, and another man chatting away. So I thought, right, this is your moment. And I joined in the conversation as if we were all best friends. And then the other man said, I think we ought to go upstairs now. So we stood up, and I said, Camilla, I'd love to have a word with you if it's possible. And she looked really, really uncomfortable and put her head down and said to the men, okay boys, I'm just going to have a quick word with Camilla, and I'll be up in a minute. And they shot upstairs like chickens with no head. I could feel upstairs all hell breaking loose. What's she going to do? What is she going to say? I said, Camilla, would you like to sit down? So we sat down, and I was utterly terrified of her, and I said, Camilla, I would just like you to know that I know exactly what's going on. She said, I don't know what you're talking about. And I said, I know what's going on between you and Charles, and I just want you to know that. And she said, oh, it's not like a cloak and dagger situation. I said, I think it is. I wasn't as strong as I'd like to been, but at least I got the conversation going. She told me, you never let him see the children when he's up in Scotland. I told her, Camilla, the children are either at Highgrove or in London. First of all, I wouldn't have explained shit to Camilla. But secondly, that's Charles's biggest fault. He never sees the children. But I have never taken them away. Again, why are you explaining yourself to the fucking mistress? In the beginning, you said you knew way too much. The other day, for instance, William said, Papa, will you play with us? Oh, I don't know if I have time. Famous quote, always happens. So he can't gripe about that. Anyway, going back to Camilla, she said to me, you've got everything you ever wanted. You've got all the men in the world falling in love with you, and you got 2 beautiful children. What more could you want? So I said, I want my fucking husband. Period. Okay? You can say all that. What more do you want? You got this, I got that. Bitch, I want my fucking husband. But, well, let me continue. Someone came down to relieve us, obviously. For God's sake, go down there. They're having a fight. It wasn't a fight. Calm, deathly calm. I said to Camilla, I'm sorry, I'm in the way. I'm obviously in the way, and it must be hell for the both of you. But I do know what is going on. Don't treat me like an idiot. And then she said she went upstairs and people began to disperse. And the car on the way back home, her husband was all over her like a bad rash. And I cried like I've never cried before. See, that's what I said in the beginning of this whole thing. The only thing I can understand, like she said, this must be hell for you. You two really want to be together. You're not going anywhere. You're constantly around. You're constantly in my dreams. Like, it must be hell not to be able to be with the person you want to be with. But I feel as if after a certain point in life, there's something where you just say, fuck it, and you have to let something go. Because this whole thing wasn't fair to Princess Diana at all, in my opinion. She was the youngest. Remember, Camilla's husband was Prince Charles's friend, Officer Andrew. Camilla's husband was cheating too. He was kind of happy that, to keep her out of his business. It was like one big, just, and at that time, it was anger. It was 7 years of pent-up anger coming out. I cried and cried and cried, and I didn't sleep that night. And the next morning when I woke up, I felt a tremendous shift. I've done something. I said what I felt. Still, the old jealousy and anger swirling around, but it wasn't so deathly as before. And I said to him on that weekend 3 days later, darling, I'm sure you want to know what I said to Camilla. There's no secrets. You may ask her. I just said I loved you. There's nothing wrong in that. He said, I don't believe that. I said, that's what I said to her. I got nothing to hide. I'm your wife and the mother of your children. That always makes him slightly twitch. When I say mother of your children, he hates being aware of that. And basically, that's actually basically the end of really this story, because I'm her therapist, and after she said what she said to Camilla, that was it. It was a big step for her. And she was just like, and it was actually driving Princess Diana crazy. Unlike what Camilla actually told Prince Charles, what she said, because Prince Charles is basically like I don't really care, blah blah blah. It was driving her crazy. But at this point, and then she said by the summer of 1988, she does something just snapped in her. I remember saying to myself, Diana, this is no good. You gotta change. You gotta make things right. Basically telling her to grow up. You gotta understand that you can't do what other 26 and 27-year-olds do. You've been chosen to do a position, so you must adapt to the position and stop fighting it. So remember, she's now 26, 27. she met this man when she was like 16, 17, or 18, whatever, and besides fighting it, sometimes once you understand the situation, once you get a hold of reality and understand it, then you can fix it. But it's the denial that I think ruins people a lot when it comes to situation. If you're in denial, then you're not seeing what you're supposed to see. You're not hearing what you're supposed to be hearing. But once you see it, once you hear it, once you understand it, then you can actually like go ahead and fix it. Then she goes on to say that the therapist used to teach her affirmations about herself. She never believed them, but now she believes in them now. And I think too, also to like the paparazzi definitely added to like more of her anxiety and all. So after all and that was done, just to summarize real quickly, what ended up happening was that so this book was actually, the interview was done in 1991 inside London's Kingston Palace. Sits down for a series of interview secrets, and they had to get really, really creative. And so when that book dropped, all hell broke loose. You hear me? All hell broke loose, because like I said, I didn't go into every single detail of this book, but she goes into the rest of the royal family's children, and she does even go into like, Princess Margaret, Queen Elizabeth, sister, how she really, really adored her. But she goes into the secrets and the coldness and more secrets and more secrets, And then in the book, remember, she mentions Camilla all up and down this interview, right? So now that the world got this book, it's like Camilla is now being hounded, right? And I'm telling you, Princess Diana, baby, was probably sitting there sipping her tea, eating her bacon or whatever she eats or whatever, and just smiling at the situation, because now, of course, Camilla's like the homewrecker. You knew that he was married. This is that. So now they're hounding her, and I don't know how she did it. Or whatever did it, but somehow or another, the world somehow got a copy of a conversation between Prince Charles and Camilla, and it's the most cringy shit you have ever heard in your life. Like, if that's how they do their foreplay, if that's how they talk to one another, then cool, but it's the most uncomfortable cornballing shit royally I have ever heard in my life. It's just like, I mean, everybody has their quirky things in their relationship, everybody has their thing, but it's just cringy and corny to me. I don't know. But then, like I said, the whole world heard that conversation. So then, publicly, after the whole book and everything comes out, and I think there was an interview with Princess Diana, something, because see, by now the public has not seen them together. They're not doing public appearances anymore. And I think there was a question that was asked to Princess Diana in regards to, how do you think, Prince Charles will be king or whatever. And she didn't answer the question disrespectfully. She just said, from what she knows of him and what he likes to do, it might damper on what he wants to, like, she didn't come out and say no, but the fact that like he's a cheater, this, that, and I guess because she knew his real personality, she basically was just saying him being king, it just doesn't tie into like his lifestyle. And so because of that, and then because of the book, the queen actually had them separate. I think it's never been done before in the royal family or in history. The prime, what do they call it, prime minister, they all had a discussion about Prince Charles and Princess Diana divorcing, but it's never been done before. But once that book dropped and all the secrets are coming in, and then that interview that happened on BBC or whatever interview she did, that was it, the end, boop, done. The queen called and was like, no, I don't care what nobody says, this marriage is over, you guys are getting divorced. And the queen actually, and both parties, I mean Princess Diana and Prince Charles, both parties at this moment agreed. Everything was done with. Everything was out in the open. Camilla's out. The tapes are out. The book is out. Secrets are out. More secrets are out. It was just too much. So, and that's that. So I did not want to end this video on just, blaming everything on Princess Diana. On Prince Charles. So there have been other men that she has been linked to. Now, there's only been one that she has publicly come out and announced that was true, and the love affair, and this is, well, there's actually two. Let's talk about it. So, I have to say, Prince Charles, once he got married, right, and seemed as if he just had this on and off again relationship with Camilla, like he couldn't do nothing else but Camilla. That was it. That was his love. Boom, bombed in the end, right? So, like I said, when he got married, it seemed to just be her, right? No matter what, like with the gifts, the honeymoon, carrying around the pictures, like all of that shit was really disrespectful. So, from my understanding, by year five, Princess Diana had it. She wanted some love and affection herself, between her self-harm and trying to get attention, and even like throwing herself down the stairs for attention and desperation, and still out of nothing and not even getting love from her parents, she was over it. So, like I said, the first man she has ever been linked to, of course, which was her first love, her first everything, was Prince Charles. So, like I said, Prince Charles now, Prince Charles III, then Prince of Wales, and the heir to the throne, first met Lady Diana Spencer at the estate. At the time, he was dating the older sister Sarah, but would later recall in an interview what fun she was during her initial exchange. The wedding broadcast on the world on July 29th, 1981, but their marriage ended in 1992, so from 81 to 92, so that was Prince Charles. Now, this next one, so remember, she got married in 81, divorced in 92. Now, Barry Albert Meneke, I think you pronounce his last name, worked as a police officer with the Royal Protection Squad before being assigned to Princess Diana as a bodyguard in 1985. Palace rumors circulated of an affair between the two of them that ultimately led to his dismissal from the role a year later. In 1987, he was killed. He was killed in a motorcycle accident that led to conspiracy theories that his death had been planned. These were revealed by Diana in a video later obtained by NBC, where she confessed, "I was only happy when he around. And she described his death as the biggest blow of my life. She also said, I think he was bumped off, but there we are. He was never mentioned by name in the secret tapes, but when she spoke of a man she was in love with, but it was assumed she was referring to him. In the tape, she said she was deeply in love with the unidentified security guard and was quite happy to give all this up and to just go live with him. And then it says his death was actually reinvestigated during the inquiries into the death of Princess Diana as part of her operation. Listen, that's part 2. Don't even get me started on the conspiracy theories. Don't even get me started. So, there you go. That's one. Another one she was tied to. Now, this is the one that she actually publicly admitted to. James Hewitt. And if you type his name in, like, their affair is up and down all the tabloids, but the dashing former household cavalry officer and tank commander began his 5-year affair with Diana in 1986 after they met at a cocktail party, with Diana later confessing to the romance in the 1995 BBC interview. That's what I'm saying. Everything else has been speculation, but this one she actually admitted to. And then it's been much contested this past 25 years on. The affair happened at the same time that Prince Charles was widely reported to have been seeing his former girlfriend Camilla Parker Bowles. But then the relationship had to get torn away when he was deployed to serve in the Gulf War before splitting permanently. When the affair was exposed, Diana's former protection officer and competent okay, so anyway, this guy James Hewitt, like, they had an affair. They had a long affair from 1986 to 92, and from my understanding she was really madly in love with him. But again, back then, duty called. She was so sure that he was gonna choose love over going back to the Navy or whatever, that because she was a princess of Wales, she was offering to demand he stays, writing to the commander officer. She was going to pull all her strength she could just for James Hewitt to stay with her, and he chose to go overseas anyway. They stayed in contact, but it just broke her heart because she thought that he would be the one to stay back, protect her, and everything else. And then afterwards, the princess later revealed she was in love with him, but I was very let down because then afterwards he started selling on the secret. I think he wrote like 2 books. He just started yappity yap for the fame, and that literally like broke her heart. So then there was another guy by the name of James Gilby. I don't know about this one. This one happened in 1989. This one's also speculation as well. It was considered like they called it the Squidgy Gate. It was some type of phone call that was recorded between him and Princess Diana. But there really was no, it was just a conversation between 2 people who were friends. Nothing romantic came out of that. Neither one of them ever said that it was anything like that, but he called her a nickname like Squidgy or something, which is why they called it Squid Gates or some nonsense like that. It was in 1989 that was recorded, a phone call. So I guess a phone call was done in 1989. It was released in 1992. I don't know. But anyway, in the phone call, it does mention that she does say that her husband is, makes her life a living hell. So I don't showed, but it did show her being miserable and her husband still being an asshole. So I don't know. Then we have a Oliver Orr one. That one, I don't know. Like these last couple of ones, everything has been speculation. Oh, another one. Oh, go back. Another one that I read was, where'd it go? I know she was also like linked to like an art dealer, that didn't like really, no one really blew that up. But there was one, who was that? Oh, the heart surgeon. Now let me just mention that so the art dealer, like I said, that was from 92 to 94 when she was separated, or basically being separated from her husband. He was actually a friend of Prince Charles. He was a former bodyguard as well. Yeah, again, that was just hanging out. Like no one, like there's really no speculation of that one. But well, Carling in 1995, he was a former England rugby star. They met while she was married to Charles, but then they re-met again in 95 when she was not married to Charles. She actually asked for some private training lessons. Oh, by the way, too, I just want to mention that relationship she had with the guy who actually read a book, the James Hewitt one. It's sad because he actually told her, she told him that she was terrified of horses, and he was supposed to actually train her and teach her how to ride a horse, but they end up falling in love. Taught her how to play polo and all that stuff, but they actually fell in love. So yeah, also too with the James Hewitt one, I remember too that there was time they were saying that he had to get in the back of the trunk, he had to be covered, everything had to be secretly because of the paparazzi and, you know, the media. But the last one I want to talk about is damn, which one was the heart surgeon? There was a heart surgeon that oh, here it is. I'm just gonna call him Mr. Ken. Mr. Kane. I don't know how to pronounce his first name, but it was anyway. It's from 1995 to 1997. Described by Diana as Mr. Wonderful, was a British Pakistani heart lung surgeon. Thought by friends to have been the love of Diana's life. Their 2-year-long relationship ended just months before Diana's death in 1997, owing to the fact that he feared he could never have a normal life if they married. The couple had reportedly even considered moving to his native Pakistani country together before the relationship ended. He did attend Diana's funeral. But yeah, so she was in love with like a heart surgeon. But you know, and then I think Dodie Al-Fayed. Listen, I'm gonna end it here, but in 1997, she met the eldest son of former owner and billionaire. He was the Harrods owner, a billionaire, Mohammed Al-Fayed. He was a playboy linked to a sting of famous woman. No, we don't care about the woman. Charles, William and Harry to spend time on their yacht in the South. Anyway, they had a little bit of romance, and then, as you know, he was one of the people that died in the car crash on August 31st of 1997. He was in the car with her. I do also want to mention too that, like, when they got divorced and the queen stripped her of all her royal duties or whatever, she did make a public appearance and made an announcement stating that she wanted to step down from the media. She even mentioned that she had no idea how cruel this world is before, like, Prince Charles, and now that she had kids of her own, she was gonna finish her engagement for the year, and that was that. She wanted to be a mom. She wanted to be out of the paparazzi. She wanted to be out of the spotlight. She wanted to raise her children, and that's all she wanted to do. And that's what she was doing, picking them up from school, trying to give them the most normal life she can. At the end of the day, she didn't need the queen's money or anything like that. But I do believe by the queen stripping her of her royal duties and name and everything else, she no longer had the protection of the royal family, and her being as big as she was, I think, personally, that also contributed to her death on that day. But that's for part two. That's for part two. That's for part two. So, all in all, I hope you enjoyed part one of this video. And if there's anything you guys want me to cover in part two, just let me know down below. Remember, we're gonna give 2 crowns for Miss Princess Diana if you want a part two to her story. So I think I basically covered. I'm just going through everything just to make sure. I had notes after notes after notes after notes. Yeah, Charles was 32 and she was 19 when they got engaged. I don't know if I mentioned that, but I have old stuff here. Could you imagine having a lady around your husband or your boyfriend who knows a lot more about your relationship than you? Like, could you imagine you sitting here dreaming about your husband's mission? And your husband not giving a shit about it. Listen, I'm getting off here. As always, I love you guys for watching. Until next time.